to lesson 2 in the course Communication Proficiency. In lesson 2, we will be considering how to cultivate narrative intelligence as part of the process of achieving communication proficiency. This proficiency is a competency that serves to equip leaders to improve future outcomes of teams, organizations, communities, and even nations that they lead. The reflection for this lesson is taken from Esther chapter 4, verse 16. Esther chapter 4, verse 16, it reads, and I quote, "Go assemble all the Jews who are found in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens also will fast in the same way, and thus I will go in to the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish." That was Esther chapter 4, verse 16, the New American Standard Bible, 1995 version. Now to some questions. Why do people change their minds? Why do people devote their lives to one thing rather than another? Why do we decide to champion one cause and not another? Understanding why people change their minds is the core of leadership. Let's look at some reasons why people change their minds. Number one, actual experience. Real life experiences can contribute to a person changing their mind. It could be a health, financial, academic, or even a spiritual experience, especially if it was an experience that involved strong emotions. A person's emotions helps in preserving the memory of either bad or good experiences. For instance, the loss of a dear one can leave some emotional feeling that preserves the memory of that feeling. Probably even an accident, the pain or the goriness of the accident, instills some emotion that preserves that memory, even though it's a memory that we do not want to remember. An experience at times can be so exciting emotionally that it almost leaves a scar on a person's cerebral tissues. James 18:17. People change their minds because of observed experience. We do not necessarily have to experience an event personally for us to change our minds. Sometimes people make significant life decisions because of observed experiences. Observed experiences can at times impact the emotions even as actual experiences. For instance, some people made major life decisions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Decisions that impacted career, location, family life, and even religion. Symbolic learning is also another way in which people change their minds. There are some instances in which people change their minds by learning. The physiological reaction of the body to symbolic learning can be compared to undergoing or observing experiences themselves, according to Phelps 2006. An idea could be communicated through hearing from someone one-to-one in a team meeting or in a mass audience meeting like a conference or a workshop. Nevertheless, the impact of a thought communicated symbolically is usually not as impactful as a direct experience. Sometimes it may take the combination of an actual experience and symbolic learning to have a change of mind. So symbolic learning is one of the ways people change their minds. So people don't necessarily have to experience things or observe it. They can learn it and decide to change their minds just by learning or hearing in a conference, in one-to-one under a mentor. People can change their minds as a result of that. Now that we have looked at why people change their minds, it is important to know how to get them to change their minds. How do we get people to change their mind? That's the big leadership question. Core to leadership is influencing people towards a mutually agreed future, and to cause people to move towards a mutually agreed future involves ripple changes of their minds. I mean, a ripple effect of a change of minds of so many people, so that it's geared towards mutually agreed future. The minds of people can be changed through direct or observed learning. And to explain that, the more experiential learning can be, the more likely it will effect change in others. Leaders achieve this in the people who follow them when they initiate conversations that create interactive experiences that may stimulate others to embrace new viewpoints. So, what does a leader do? Initiate conversations and that will create interaction of experiences that will lead to this to stimulation. So through direct learning or observed learning. Still in this context of direct learning or observed learning, by embodying behaviors that they intend to induce in others. So leaders embody behaviors that they intend to do in what they model it first. Do as I do. Then also by organizing study tours or excursions to organizations or communities that are already implementing the desired change that the team intends to introduce to the organization. So people tend to become what they behold. So taking the team out to a place or an organization where what the organization desires to achieve is already being done helps create in the followers a desire to see changes come. So through direct observed learning. And then also coaching people by providing frequent feedback and corrective action to overcome cognitive biases. So all these points fall under direct observed learning. So whether it's coaching people, taking them out on tours, by embodying, modeling the behaviors you intend to induce in others, or by initiating wholesome conversations that will allow for interactive experiences that will lead to the stimulation of change, the stimulation of desire for change in them, are important components of direct or observed learning. Appealing to reason is another way effective leaders stimulate in their followers a change of mindset. The traditional approach to persuasion is the royal road of reasoning. This renowned approach dates to the days of Plato, Descartes, and Kant. The goal of this method is to minimize emotion and promote reasoning. Rational processing must not be observed by passion. This approach allows for honesty and transparency and minimizes manipulation. It is premised on the idea that human beings should inculcate rationality in decision making. So that's the premises. So people's leaders are able to help their followers change their minds by appealing to reason. Appealing to intuition is another way that leaders help their followers to change their minds towards a collective goal of the organization. Research has shown that most of the decisions made by human beings are not made by cognitive reasoning. They are based on intuitive thinking. Intuitive thinking is often barely conscious. It is mostly fast, seamless, associative, and natural. Intuitive thinking, though, is prone to biases that may be difficult to eliminate and therefore could be exploited to change the minds of others, but it's still a very effective way of changing minds, which leaders use to change the minds of the followers, that are within their circle of influence. Appeals to intuition, when they work, they do so rapidly. They are more effective for low involvement issues where people don't care much, such as what brand of orange juice to buy. And these are the different ways in which intuitions are appealed to by hype, when multiple voices exaggerate the benefits of a cause or a product. The halo effect, the perception of a kind of trait, can lead to inferring the presence of similar traits. The bait and switch approach, if people agree to a cause, they are more likely to honor the commitment, even if the incentive or motivation is removed after they have agreed. Also, through groupthink, people will do things because others in the social group are doing the same. Another way to appeal to intuition is through celebrity pressure. People are more persuaded by the people they admire. Leaders change the minds of the people they lead, but through direct narrative. Without a doubt, stories have played an important role in changing people's minds. Therefore, if we want to change the way people act, we need to change the stories they listen to. The more captivating a story is, the more effective it is in triggering a change. Business journals have begun publishing articles that embrace the central role of storytelling in leadership communication. So, direct narrative, building stories is an effective way in which leaders help change the minds of the people they lead. Leaders also change the minds of their followers through indirective narratives. Indirective narratives. The goal of indirective narrative is to trigger a new story in the mind of the audience, and not necessarily to induce change as in the case of direct narrative. In indirect narrative, it is the audience's story that is paramount. Indirect narrative distinguishes itself from direct narrative in the mechanism it deploys to get results. Unlike direct narrative, which demands 100% of the audience absorption, indirect narratives can make do with less than 100%, because the goal is to initiate a symbiotic relationship with the voice of the listener. The person communicating conveys the message in a manner that allows mental space for the listener to project their thoughts. The storyteller's narrative serves as the catalyst for new stories in the mind of the audience. Indirective narrative is a principal approach that strategic foresight leaders utilize to stimulate the desire for change. Strategic leaders deploy the use of simple stories to diffuse tension in areas of their strong convictions. They need to deploy stories to lighten the magnificent vagueness of their messages and their banal conversations too. Jesus Christ, the founder of the Christian faith, was renowned by the way he used profound stories known as parables to convey timeless and compelling truths. Leaders need to know how to use stories to carry their team, organization, or community along. They need to know how to use stories to make their point in areas where they are committed. Storytelling enhances the language of leadership and it needs to be deployed deliberately and continuously. That is how leaders develop narrative intelligence. Jesus Christ was renowned for his storytelling as he used parables, short stories to convey his message of hope and change. Narratives should be deployed by leaders as they are designed to initiate change, express identity and brand, secure collaboration of team members or the organization, transmit core values, share knowledge, douse tensions, generate innovation, and lead people into the future. Experts argue that leaders have more effective ways of leading change, leading with questions, like visually displaying quantitative information and persuading using metaphors. There are others who advocate that conversations and storytelling are the way to go. Out of the core intelligences identified, such as linguistic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, existential, and emotional, none of them embody what narrative intelligence symbolizes. So, narrative intelligence is the mode of communicating effectively for leaders. Now, to the text in our reflection that was shared earlier in the lesson, Esther chapter 4, verse 16. It reads, and I quote, go assemble all the Jews who are found in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens also will fast in the same way. And thus I will go to the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, perish. Now, cultivating narrative intelligence at times entails that leaders leverage their celebrity status to appeal intuitively to the people they lead towards change. In the text that we just read, Esther leverages her celebrity status to inspire the Jews in Susa towards praying and fasting for her to find favor as she decides to courageously come before the king uninvited. This bold step was critical to the preservation of the lives of the Jews who resided in Susa at that time, Peyton 2020. Summing it all up, narrative intelligence is about having an understanding of and a capacity to navigate through the world of interactive narratives. So, narrative intelligence is about having an understanding of the audience and a capacity to navigate through a world of interacting narratives. The central role of narrative intelligence is confirmed by research that stories are more effective than analytic reasons for persuasions. Narrative intelligence must be based on truthfulness for it to be of any use. Well, so that's where we draw curtains in this lesson, lesson 2 of the communication proficiency course. Looking forward to having you in lesson 3. Thank you.